Hello, and welcome to Sitter's Baked Goods. Today we're going to be making blueberry jam. I like to use frozen blueberries because frozen blueberries condense all the sugar and get a way better taste. So we're going to first put all the blueberries in, then we're just going to put the sugar, this lemon juice, and then let it sit till all the juices come out of the blueberries. Since it's frozen, it's going to take half an hour to an hour, maybe a bit more. But first, we're going to put all these in. I make a huge batch. This makes 3 liters of jam. So keep that in mind if you want to make less. The other thing you need to understand about jam is it's not healthy for you. It's not going to be healthy for you. You need a lot of sugar. And even if you cut the sugar in half, there's still a lot of sugar. So don't worry about it being unhealthy. What you need to do is make it taste good, and when you use it in your recipes or you put it on your toast or whatever, just don't put a lot. You don't need to put a lot. If you make it taste super good, then you only need to put a thin layer on and everything will be fine. So, now that we have everything on, and you can start to see there's a little bit of liquid on the bottom, I'm going to turn on the heat and just try and get that starting to mix. Because once you can get that little bit of liquid mixing, you can blend that area, which will create more liquid, which then will make it easier to mix in more sugar, and so on and so on. There we go. Getting as much as I can so I can get my blender in. So now that I have space for my blender, I'm going to slowly blend it, which will make way more liquid, which will again allow me to mix more sugar in, etc., etc., until finally it's all together in one liquid, and then I can start boiling. So slowly push the sugar in, just like that, and keep mixing. There we go. Now when you get to this stage, you can still, if my hand wasn't in the way, you can still see the berries floating in there. So all I'm doing is blending it to make sure all the berries are blended. Once all the berries are blended, that will be perfect. So just like that. I'm now just going to stir it a little bit to make sure I got all the berries. And I got them all. So that's perfect. So now that we have this all going, we're going to get this to a boil and then add our pectin in. That's what thickens it and makes it a jam. But before that, I need to start boiling my jars and lids to sanitize it and to help with the sealing. So now I have my water boiling. I still have my jam going, so keep in mind that you need to be quick when you do this. So I'm going to put all the lids in at once. You're going to want to boil them for 30 seconds minimum. A minute's better. So we're just going to let them boil. Set up a plate so that we can put all the lids on them, just like so. Take out all the lids. Now be very careful because that is boiling water, so when you lift it to get all that boiling water out, be careful that you don't touch your hand. Not to mention, steam is very hot as well, so be very careful on putting your hand over top of the boiling water. Just checking up on my jam, making sure that it doesn't boil over. There we go. And then I'm going to start putting the jars in. There we are. Make sure that it gets all over it. So you see that little bit outside the water? What that means I have to do is rotate it after 30 seconds so that all sides of the jar are boiled. This will kill anything, and make sure that when you pour the hot jam in, when the jam cools down, it condenses, which pulls the lid tight against the jar, which seals it and allows nothing to get in. And when the jars are hot, it helps a lot with that sealing. It's not needed, but it'll make your jam have a much longer shelf life. So once we get all these jars done. I just take these out. By the way, these are 125 ml jars. I'm making them for gifts for Christmas slash really whatever. Okay, so this is the stage you want to put your pectin in. You see it's boiling. It might boil over if I don't be careful, but as soon as I get the pectin in, it's going to cool it down just enough to not boil over. I used expired pectin. Now, it wasn't super expired, so like it still works, but when it's expired, you need to understand that when expired pectin will not thicken as much as regular pectin. So this recipe normally takes 2 packs of liquid pectin, but I used 3, and if it was any more expired, I probably would have used 4. So keep that in mind if you ever have expired pectin. If you don't have expired pectin, you'll only need 2 ever for this recipe. So once you put the pectin in the boiling jam, make sure that it boils again and then take it off the heat. While you're waiting for it to boil again, make sure you're continuously doing your jars so that you get it all at once. And you want to do all your jars as close as you can to when your jam is boiling. That way the jars are still hot when you pour the jam inside. You can see that thickening up on my spoon, and all the bubbles are very thick. So what we need to do is take this off the heat. If it's ever starting to boil and you're worried, just lift it up for a second. Just like that. Now, it's going to keep boiling in if you put it back on. So what you need to do is actually just move it off to the side. And then what we're going to do is all those bubbles, this is for looks. You don't, if you're just doing this at home, you don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to take off all the bubbles because they look ugly and because they're not pure jam. And if you're filling a jar with a bunch of bubbles and a different jar without bubbles, that jar without bubbles has way more jam than without. So I take out as much as this. There's still some bubbles, but at that point you're taking off jam instead of the bubbles, so you just stop around there. And then we're just going to put it into an easy container to lift over top. We don't want to be lifting our giant pot over everything. And then we're going to just scoop it into each one. Just like so. And you want to fill to the brim. When it cools down, it will condense and be a little smaller than what you fill it to. So if you fill it to the brim, it'll be the perfect filled. But if you fill it to where you want it to be filled, it'll be slightly smaller than what you want. These are how they turned out. They're beautiful little jars. Perfect for gifts. Perfect for really anything you want to use them for. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.